The year is 1494, and the place is Europe. There, an Italian mathematician and Franciscan monk introduced not only the use of various bookkeeping tools such as journals and ledgers, but also the double-entry bookkeeping system. Ledgers, well, we talk about those a lot here, but we don't really talk about monks or Franciscan monks. And what's really interesting about monks is that when you look at the history of finance, there's a certain thread running over the course of human history connecting money and religion. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the meaty part of this conversation by starting at the beginning of what I just said. Welcome to Unusual Due Diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, god of the sea and the spirit animate of this talking milkshake. In today's fresh episode, we're looking at Italy, 1494, and more specifically, a fun link that takes us from an ancient monk to a house of intrigue, a whole lot of money, an algorand, amp, and the Boston Fed, well as some Ninja Turtles. Here we go. You see, 1494 is an interesting year, and not just because of the work done by a Franciscan monk to popularize the concept of ledgers and journals, which would later become cryptocurrency ledgers and more. You see, in the same year that the monk publishes the description of how journals and ledgers work, it was also the same year that something quite interesting happened to a family. The Medici Bank, from when it was created in 1397 to its documented collapse in November of 1494, due to an alleged failure to collect on loans, it's said by historians that this banking institution and Italian house was one of the most prosperous and respected, well, if you ignore those pesky criminal and murder charges, of the institutions in Europe, and the Medici family was considered the wealthiest in Europe for a time. From this base, they acquired political power, initially in Florence and later wider in Italy and Europe. The Medicis were among the earlier businesses to use the general ledger system of accounting through the development of the double-entry bookkeeping system for tracking credits and debits. And all this power and influence helped inspire the arts, with claims to rich benefactors of the Medici family led to the creation of both opera and the piano. Not to mention, they were also sponsors of the Ninja Turtles, such as Michelangelo, Raphael, and even Leonardo. So let's simplify these themes down a bit because we're going somewhere today by connecting the past into the present, and it gets kind of weird. You know which cryptocurrency project based on modern thinking and technology also has strong ties to Italy? If you're thinking the answer involves algorand, you would be right. Algorand has a strong Italian presence, and I've covered that previously on the channel, exploring the connection between Wheeljack from the Transformers to Algorand. But today we're going to segue that into a conversation and about the relationship between Algorand and any modern formation of the House of Medici, which according to history, well, dissolved in 1743. So if you stop there, I get it. Except on this channel, when we hit a stop, we start asking questions. For example, how did the House of Medici exactly dissolve a banking dynasty? It's not like just one turns off a switch and all of banking, political, religious, and artistic influences suddenly disappear, and surely there was some sort of descendants of House Medici that carried on into the future. You see, House Medici didn't dissolve so much as reduce in stature. There's at least one descendant of the Medici family, a Prince Lorenzo de' Medici, who is keeping the Medici banking dynasty alive with a move into modern ledger and bookkeeping systems, i.e. cryptocurrencies. And the article on the screen shows something that when you frame it in the context of history, knowing the Medici house were so influential in this little place called Italy, well, I find that fascinating. A descendant of House Medici is involved in crypto. Turns out this is exactly what's happening with something called, well, Medici Bank, or I should say Banco de' Medici. Now, if you're wondering if Algorand and the Banco de' Medici are somehow connected, the answer is, well, I don't have an answer. They definitely both have a strong Italian background. You see, Algorand could be argued to be incepted by Silvio Maccali, an Italian computer scientist and professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And if you're not sure why I find that interesting, it's because it has to do with the Boston Federal Reserve, a project called Project Hamilton, a Neha Narula, Flexa Networks Tyler Spalding, and more. Further, Algorand seems to have a bit more content on their website in Italian than available in English translation, which, well, that's a little nugget of information that might be useful for you in your future research endeavors. So that's certainly an interesting link. A link tying together a digital cryptocurrency coin, a platform of spending crypto, and Italy. And I've got to say, it wasn't the one I was expecting to find. That is, we just demonstrated a means to link together Tyler Spalding, Neha Narula, Silvio Maccali by way of an academic background, all the way to 1494, and a Franciscan monk popularized the entire concept of a double-entry bookkeeping system. Oh, and we even had some crossover with the Ninja Turtles. Well, at least the famous humans from whom those Ninja Turtles are named. My goodness, there is one epic story here, and I'm just scratching the surface of it. A history of ledgers and double-entry bookkeeping, dynasties, intrigue, and more. How likely is cryptocurrency project going to go under when it's backed by the secret rich dynasties of yesteryear? What a question. Maybe it's time to consider a spin-off of Game of Thrones called Game of Milkshakes. This was some unusual due diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, god of the sea, and in today's episode we touched upon a current connecting the distant past to the incredible future, connecting House Medici to three of the leading thinkers in the blockchain industry. What's pretty wild is thinking that there's a kind of dotted line from a Franciscan monk through Leonardo da Vinci by way of House Medici, all the way, well, to this YouTube channel. How about that? Make waves and, well, maybe a little pasta, my friends.